Welcome to a Video Game Mania Special Edition to take a look at Miami's greatest arcade venue, the Arcade Odyssey. In the next 45 minutes, we will take you on a guided tour around Arcade Odyssey to take a look at some exciting games, pinball machines, and even some imported Japanese games as well. Plus, we'll provide you hints and tips for Primal Rage on the Super Nintendo. Also, I'll be reviewing not one, not two, but 3 Laserdisc-based games, which is totally awesome. Even the iOS ones, which is like that. And we'll also interview with some people at Arcade Odyssey. And now, here's your host, Mike. Yo, what's up everybody? Mike here, and welcome to a Video Game Mania Special Edition to take you an inside look of Miami's only greatest arcade, the Arcade Odyssey. Now, in just a moment, we will explain the American and Japanese arcade differences, and even one of my favorite pinball machines are in there. So, let's go inside. Arcade Odyssey! It's so beautiful! It's Miami's greatest arcade style. Filled with classics, old and new. And it's so much fun. Let's play. Before we explore Arcade Odyssey, here's a brief look at arcade history. Arcades began in the 1950s with pinball machines, skee-ball, pong, and also some skilled crane games. They became so popular throughout the years, including Chuck E. Cheese's in the late 1970s, where its slogan, "A kid can be a kid." At the turn of the century in the 1980s, it became so popular with Space Invaders, Galaga, Miss Pac-Man, and Asteroids, among others. Here's a featurette of vintage arcade from History Channel's Modern Marvels.
If you were lucky enough to be a kid in the 80s, you might remember spending your allowance at the virtual nirvana called the arcade, bound only by the limits of your imagination and how many quarters you had. Once just a place to play games like skee-ball and pinball, arcades now boasted the newly popular video combat games, where you could single-handedly save the world from aliens by repeatedly pressing a button. But even more popular were character-driven games, like Donkey Kong and Pac Man. According to Pac Man's creator, Toru Iwatani, the inspiration for the character came from a pizza with a slice missing. If you long for the games of days gone by, the Vintage Arcade Superstore in Glendale, California, can resurrect your childhood with one of their restored arcade games.
Came up 500 short.
Most of our customers are people that played these games when they were kids. Some of our customers are collectors. We have some customers that are celebrities. Our most sought after products are the early 80s video games like Miss Pac-Man, Galaga, Defender, Asteroids, Donkey Kong. If we don't have something, we can find it for you. We completely go through them. We redo the control panels. We put new monitor glass on them, new marquees, new T-molding, repaint the sides. A lot of times we put new side art on them. We can put new monitors in them.
Of course, Gene personally tests each game before it's shipped out to the customer. Inside, arcade games are fairly simple machines, made possible by our old friend, the microprocessor.
Power comes through the cord, goes in this transformer. There's some fuses. This is the power supply. Here's the computer board. Here's the memory chips right here. This is the microprocessor. Here's the monitor that displays the image. Then the speakers up here, the control panels in the front, and that's basically what there is in a video game.
Arcade game technology helped mesmerize an impressionable new generation. like many electronics in the 80s, the games became small and cheap enough to come home. Sales of home video consoles like the Atari 2600 boomed.
There was some interest on the part of many parents in acquiring home games so that their children would be playing at home as opposed to going out into this unknown space of the arcade where the parents would lose control over their children. From the kids' point of view, the games that were conversions of popular arcade games for home consoles tended to be inferior, technically speaking.
Inferior or not, home video games were a hit. Atari founder Nolan Bushnell seemed to have discovered a formula that worked, at least for a while.
A 2600 contains a very, very simple microprocessor running at maybe 1 megahertz, and that primitive nature allowed it to handle only games that were two-dimensional with just a few colors and a few little objects that were moving on the screen.
Bushnell allowed an open culture of game development, meaning that other companies could produce cartridges that were compatible with the 2600. Some of the games weren't exactly top-notch.
As a result of that, Atari, in a way, kind of lost control of that platform. That led in the early 1980s to kind of a collapse of the industry.
The game makers that followed, like Nintendo, learned from Atari's mistakes. They patented and coded their consoles and insisted on strict quality control guidelines. Despite some awesome innovations in video games and graphics over the years, we still look back nostalgically on those games from the 80s.
If you poll, say, university students today, more than 50% of them have played with an Atari 2600 still to this day. It's, for some reason, it's maintained its popularity. The Atari 2600 nailed a certain kind of interactive play experience that's possible on a very simple platform.
Today, video arcades continue to dominate across America and Canada and worldwide as well. Especially, arcade cabinets and pinball machines are up on sale too. And now let's explore Arcade Odyssey. A lot of you remember those good old arcade classics, all in one machine, the multi-game. We even have keyboard too. Arcade Odyssey got some gameplay on consoles. Wii, Xbox 360, and the PlayStation 3. Oh boy, look at that! Pinball 2000! This is a short, limited run of Star Wars Episode 1 The Phantom Menace. And it was reflected on a special glass. Pinball 2000 style. Look at that awesome playfield. Cool looking lightsaber. And everything looks like the original pinball in between. Star Wars Episode 1 characters. And it's so much fun.
Chancellor has secretly dispatched 2 Jedi Knights to help you settle the conflict.
I even get a chance to meet Carlos, assistant to Rick.
Contact us and to make your own videos, let us know. I handle all the social media. My name is Carlos. So you can contact me on YouTube and we'll try to, make like a little show spot on our own YouTube page. Oh, good.
Of course, we even have a Neo Geo arcade machine. Here's our example.
Firebomb! Flame shot!
Here at Arcade Odyssey, we got a bunch of Japanese arcade games and American games too. Take a Bug Princess 2, for example. Here's an example. Arcade Odyssey is the only place to catch Japanese imported arcade games. Here's this Japanese import, Trigger Hard 3X. We even carry Japanese snacks. They're so good. Here at Arcade Odyssey, arcades are constantly changing. In this venue, we try to take the most out of it, put it all under one roof. Everything you see, everything you know, everything will always be there. At Arcade Odyssey, we love playing games here in Miami. And of course, there will be more machines coming your way. Let's go ahead and play some more. Coming up next, hints and tips for Primal Rage on the Super NES, followed by more exploration of Arcade Odyssey, and 3 triple Laserdisc-based game reviews.